Welcome to a brand spanking new episode of Who Do You Think You Are? An exploration into how our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings create our reality. My name is Lastia Cahoot and I'm your host. I'm joined by my co-host on this show and in life, Glenn Sheridan. Every episode, we're joined by a special guest who inspires us to consider not only what we think, but how we think and how that thinking impacts our life experience. It's time to get this conscious conversation started as we ask today's guest, who do you think you are? Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand spanking new episode of Who Do You Think You Are? My name is Lastia Cahoot, and I am here with my co-host on the show and in life, Glenn Sheridan.
Hello.
Such a quiet hello today on such an exciting day. Do you have something a little bit more zesty to give the people?
Hello, good people.
Hello. And today we have another guest on our show, and I'm going to have to find a synonym for super excited because this is like beyond excited. This is elated. This is like epic. This is the zeitgeist of excitement for me so far because today we have our very first bona fide musical guest on the show. And so just a little bit about who this person is, who if you're watching, you can already see her, but if you're listening, it's still a mystery. Well, maybe not because you've already tuned into the link, which tells you who it is. But anyway, so today we have with us an actress, producer, composer, songwriter, and singer, an extraordinary, soulful, and passionate musician. She is also, I don't even know where to begin. So I'm just going to read a little bit about what is in her bio because there's this list of names that is just, it's mind blowing. The people that she has an opportunity to work with and to vibe with and to be inspired by and inspire them in turn. So as a keyboardist, Dona has played with many rock and roll blues legends, including Keith Richards, Van Morrison, Roger Daltrey, Ginger Baker, Albert Lee, Julia Fordham, Buddy Guy, Bob Weir, Levon Helm, Sun Seals, Hubert Sumlin, Jimmy Vivino, Leland Sklar, and her idol, the former Chuck Berry sideman and father of rock and roll piano, Johnnie Johnson. And Glenn's given a big thumbs up for Johnnie Johnson. Dona is known as the goddess of soul. She brings her sassy soul throughout the world and has toured has toured over 25 countries. In addition to recording 5 albums of her own, she also finds time to play on numerous Grammy and Handy-winning albums and movie scores, including the Eddie Murphy box office hit Norbit, the Martin Lawrence film Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins, and the very funny Comedy Central favorite Senior Skip Day. With over 9 million views, her Boogie Woogie video has caught the attention of many celebrities, including Ewan McGregor, who called her the next big thing in music. She has recently been cast in the new ensemble TV comedy series Carlotte by barbershop writer Mark Brown. Now, that is just like scratching the surface of how incredibly talented, versatile, rich, as far as living a super crazy, awesome, amazing life this woman is. And I just want to add one more thing, which is that was like the short bio. There's the longer bio, which honestly, if you ever have a chance to read it, it's like the introduction or first chapter to a super sizzling, amazing biography that you're not going to want to put down and just like, where's the rest of the book kind of thing. So here, I loved reading this. In a dramatic scene reminiscent of the life story of many a blues legend, Dona Oxford was born in a parking lot in the back seat of an old Chevrolet. Although the event perhaps falls short of qualifying as the stuff of fable, since it occurred not in the Mississippi Delta, but outside a hospital on New York City's ritzy Upper West Side, Dona's impatience to enter the world was an early indication of the guts, determination, heart, and soul with which she imbues her music. That's just a little taste. So with all of that, everything that has brought you to this moment right here today, knowing that there is so much more and so much more to come, Dona Oxford, today's guest, who do you think you are?
Wow. Well, after hearing that, I forgot about a lot of that stuff. Who do I think I am? To be honest, I don't think I'm anything, but I know that I'm everything.
All right.
Really, I feel that, I am one with everything. I am everything. I can be anything and everything, anything I put my mind to. I can do anything I want to do, and can figure it out. So yeah, that's who I think I am. I don't know that I'm any one particular thing, but I am definitely everything.
That is so open, so broad, so full of potential, right? It is potential
It
itself.
is pure potentiality,
Like
absolutely.
an open book after the beginning of that book, your bio. That's amazing. Like what an amazing place to be, not to box yourself in, but to
Well,
just
because
be
I think
open.
that's why I've had that life,
Mhm.
because I've never boxed myself in. I don't think of myself as one thing. And it's interesting, recently, in the last 10 years or so, I started boxing myself in,
Yep.
and it wasn't, my life wasn't working. It just
Mhm.
wasn't flowing the way it normally did, because I think I was putting limitations on myself and not really remembering who I am, remembering the broadness of this universe and what our potentiality, what we can be, what we can achieve. Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about what those limitations might have been. Were they limitations that, that came from within? Were they limitations that you sort of, started noticing as other people maybe were sort of typecasting you in a way or
No, I think I started losing a little bit of, I don't want to say self-confidence, but I started worrying about more what people think,
okay.
and feeling that I need to focus on one area of my career, because people would think I'm scatterbrained if I didn't focus on just, touring or just music or just this. And, it comes to, when I think too, when probably because there was large investments made for me on my behalf for making albums and things like that, and so you feel a bit of a fiduciary responsibility, and then
Mhm.
a personal responsibility, and then you don't want to disappoint your fans, and so you
Mhm.
start getting in your head about what other people think, and so you start molding yourself into that which you think other people want.
Yeah.
Whereas what brought me to that great place of having that many fans is the fact that I was doing what I was going with the flow. I was doing whatever I wanted to in the moment and trying different things and exploring. And people appreciate that. I think people see the authentism and the vulnerability in that and the
Mhm.
bravery in that. And so I started, you know, kind of going more into a smaller space,
Yeah.
and I wasn't living as big as I know I am.
So what changed then? Was it one
Nothing
thing?
yet. I'm still working on it. That's why I'm like I'm taking a lot of like different classes and just
Yeah.
and going deeper. The good thing is we have time in quarantine in this COVID lifestyle. And so I'm kind of taking this opportunity to do a deep dive back into myself and to kind of recapture that feeling of invincibility, that feeling of freedom, of untetheredness. And I'm really trying to get back to that place so that I can create the content and just start putting it out there again, and just, being me again, finding myself again in a way.
Mhm. So, one of the things that I would like to ask you, because I know that this just happened recently, is that your mom just recently passed away. And I know how close you two were. And so that meant that there was a lot of time spent, and you actually did spend a lot of time being caregiver to her towards the end, right? Like, didn't you even move her from one end of the country to the other end of the country for her to be with you?
I drove across country in the middle of the lockdown back in
Mhm.
April, um, not knowing if I was even going to get through to from LA to New York, because I just felt a calling. I just felt a need to get her. I didn't want her living alone in a pandemic, which I could foresee is going to go on reasonably long.
Yeah.
And so I got her, brought her back to LA, which she wanted so badly. We just didn't have the means or the opportunity prior. and she was so happy. And I moved her back into my place here. And for a couple months, everything was great. We were going hiking and having a good time. And then she got a little pain in her abdomen, and the doctor said, they're not taking appointments, but just go to urgent care and they'll check her out. And before you know it, it was stage 4 cancer, metastatic to the
Mhm.
liver. And and then within 3 months of the diagnosis, she was gone. But I must say, what a blessing that I had the opportunity to go get her. What
Mhm.
a blessing for me that I was able to have that much close time with her. The closure that I got out of, like, we said our I love yous, we said our goodbyes, we said our I'm sorries, we said everything that you want to say to one another. And I actually left her with a concert. Her dream was to see one more gig, and it's coronavirus, there are no gigs, right? But my guitarist and his wife came over, masked, socially distanced, and we did a little impromptu concert for her in the bedroom. And as we were packing up our equipment, she slipped into unconsciousness and never regained consciousness. 3 days later, she passed. So it was her. Listen, she really lived a very science of mind philosophy, although she was not a religious scientist by choice. She was an
Yeah.
Episcopalian. But it was funny how she really always got what she wanted in some way. She manifested it every single time, and she wanted a concert, and she got one, and then that was it. She was like, "Okay, I'm done." Boom,
Yeah.
out. So for me, it's been a really uh, I don't want to say easy grief. There is no such thing as easy grief.
Yeah.
Grief bubbles up, and I have my moments, and I'm
Yeah.
catatonic on the sofa. Um, but I will say it made it easier for me. There's peace because of the closure.
Mhm.
And so for that, I'm so grateful. And I just learned so much from her throughout this process, transition process.
Yeah.
And it just gives me so much peace that I'm actually in a really good place with it. Yeah.
Mm. That's so lovely to hear. And I mean, you have talked about that a little bit when you and I have talked, and then also in some circles that we sort of travel in together. And I'm wondering, because there was this really intense connection, because it had been you and your mom since like very, very young. Your dad died really early on, and so it was the two of you for a good long time. Um, was there some kind of, other release for you, or some kind of space or something, like
Yes.
as your mom, once you were no longer in that caregiver, that active caregiver role, especially super concentrated at the end, was there something that shifted for you?
100%. There was I uh this untetheredness. That's really the word I can really feel. And yet I'm still connected to her. Like, I still feel her presence, and I still, I do believe that we're still all somewhat connected. It's just this thin veil between dimensions. But um, truly, there was this release, definitely a release, and an untethered feeling
Hmm.
that just allowed me to say, you know what? I need to thrive again. I need to really go back to what I was before, and just live to my fullest, live big,
Hmm.
and I felt that I had that permission now, especially because let's face it, when you're that close and you respect your parents, and there's that codependency almost. When you're out in the public, you do feel somewhat of a responsibility to maintain a certain image, or just to protect your family members, and
Hmm.
you know what I mean? And so now I felt like, wow, I'm not limited by any stretch of the imagination. Like, I am unlimited, untethered,
Hmm.
ultimate possibilities in front of me. What can I do with this now? So
Hmm.
that's now, this month is because she just passed in December. So now we're here in February, and it's like, now where do I move? Where do I take that energy, and where do I go with it?
Yeah.
So I'm still figuring that part out. but I'm kind of happy to just be right now and
Yeah.
allow feelings to bubble up and just figure out what's going to come next. What's next? That's kind of, my mantra. Next? What's next? What's next? What are we doing next?
Well, let's go to music then, because music, I mean, this is how you first came onto my radar. Is I was watching, I guess it was a Sunday celebration through the Global Truth Center Los Angeles. Yes, this is another person I know through Global Truth Center Los Angeles, folks.
There's a lot of
and
us.
and you were the guest musician that day, and I don't remember if it was the taller than the pyramids of Egypt song or if it was something else, but whatever it was, you got my attention like first note, first bar, right away, with your energy, with your voice, with your power, and the nuance of the lyrics of your song, rather than on the nose, take a slice of Science of Mind book and put it to a tune kind of thing, which has its time and place. However, for me, as also someone who doesn't hear lyrics first, I hear the music first. And so if the music doesn't get me, chances are the lyrics won't. But I was just like captivated, as soon as I heard you, and you sang that day. You weren't singing and playing, you just sang that day. What a powerhouse you are. And so, then to, a few weeks ago, get your bio and just see the string of names, which is not, all inclusive or limited or whatever sort of thing, to think, I know most of those names. Like, that's amazing. And you have worked with most of those people and more. And like, to me, that's just so fascinating and so exciting. And so talk to us about what music means to you. What, like, clearly you've been immersed since a small child, and
Yeah,
you've
well,
gone
I
through different
started
genres.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
started playing piano at like 6 years old, and my mom was a cabaret singer back in her day. So although she gave it up early on when she had my brother first, and then so really she wasn't active in it, but there was music always in the house.
yeah,
And so, music really has just been the thread through everything. I mean, I've always wanted to sing and dance and be an actress. Like, I would watch Judy Garland or Liza Minnelli or Bette Midler, and I just wanted to be them.
yeah,
Like, I wanted to be a gay icon, I think. I just wanted to be one of them. Like, because they were triple threats, they could do it all.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And to me, I thought, oh, well, I had known at a very early age, I don't know why, but I just had this deep knowing that I could do it all. So it was like, well, why can't I do it all? Why shouldn't I do it all? And here's women who are doing it all, and I think that's what made me that definitely gave me my inspiration. And so, but music was always kind of a thread through all of that. And because my mom was very much into blues singers of the day, of her day, which is not the blues as we know the Chicago style blues of today, but her blues singers were like Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald and all of the jazz, what we call
Yeah.
jazz now,
Yep.
but she always called it, blues singers. And so that was just playing in the house, and she would be singing it around the house. And there's something, there's a vibration to that style of music, to the blues. There's something, I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's an authenticity and a rawness, because let's face it, where it's coming from is a pain, right? Blues originally is stemming from the pain of slavery and the pain of the chain gangs, and
Hmm.
and so you feel that passion and the pain, and you feel the reverence and the emotion. And so to me, I always looked for music that had emotion in it, and all styles, from heavy metal to rap to everything. People say, well, what kind of music do you like? And I say, good music. Because there's good music in every genre,
Yeah.
and there's passion in every genre. And so as long as it's got passion and storytelling, I'm big on storytelling, and I think
Mhm.
that's what you picked up in the lyrical content. Um, and I'm not really, I wouldn't say I'm a science of mind writer, songwriter. That's not my intention. I am a social justice. I'm very big on social justice and things, the message of mindfulness and kindness and treating each other fairly and being good to one another and civics, civility. I think it's so important, especially look what's happening in the world today. I think it's so important to hear each other and reach out to try and really pay attention to each other, listen, because we all really want the same thing in life. We all just want to be heard. We want to feel heard,
Hmm.
right? And no matter where you are politically or racially or whatever, we all want the same thing. We just want a roof over our head, good, security, and we want to feel heard.
Hmm.
And so I think the way to do that is really togetherness, mindfulness, kindness, respect for one another. Those little things, holding a door open when you walk out of the store, holding the door open for the next person, saying good morning to your neighbor as they walk down the street. Those little kindnesses really make a huge difference. And it's what brings society together. And, we're so immersed in our phones these days and just so stuck on this that we don't look up to look at one another in the
Yeah.
eye. And I think that's a big, big calling for me. I would say that's my calling, my purpose, my passion here is to remind people of that and to spread that word that it's about togetherness, it's about coming together, it's about respecting one another, and that's kind of what I want to achieve in my music is to just put that message out there.
I love that because I mean, as you're doing this, like, yeah, I watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix again a few weeks ago and in its entirety. And I mean, there's so many things in there that, a lot of us have heard just as snippets, but put them all together as, this one big narrative with people who have worked for these big companies and no longer work for them because of, what is happening and what, is becoming. It was just really interesting to sort of see how even though social media and technology itself, they can be such amazing tools to allow us to connect and do what we're doing right now. You're outside of LA. We're in Victoria in Canada on Vancouver Island, snowbound right now, where it never snows, but it's snowing. And so we're having this conversation, which is fantastic. And then on sort of, a flip side, because there's more than one side, there's the isolation part of it where, you're in a way, it's almost under the guise of connecting with other people through these devices, especially if it's a phone or a tablet or something where you get sucked into, some social media platform, under the guise of connecting with other people and seeing how other people are doing. But really, you're just there with a piece of equipment, a technology, sort of a platform sort of thing. And that's what you're interacting with. You're not necessarily interacting with someone else. And then because of the way you're interacting, because of how much time you spend on something, because of, how many clicks you give something, you get fed more of this and you start to become more isolated down this narrow path of, this is what these bots and machines and algorithms think you're interested in. So we're just going to feed you more of this rather than, were you looking to connect with your friend so and so in another city in the first place? And oh, yeah, kind of forgot about that. Whereas music, I mean, I can take an album, not a CD, not stream something,
Not a
but an album,
download.
put it on and listen, drop the needle and listen to it and either be transported by the music itself or be transported to when I saw, that band or that musician play live and feel the energy, like goose. I'm not even talking about anything in particular right now. And I have goosebumps just thinking about the power of, of that happening. And then to be able to connect with people, like how many times have you met someone new and then you find out they like the same kind of music you do and you're like, oh my god, and then like all of a sudden, this door opens and just, it just all comes out.
Well, that's it. Music is a universal language, really. Let's face it. So, if you don't speak uh, Swahili, but you speak Chinese, the music can still speak to you.
Yep.
right? It doesn't
Yep.
matter. This is the beauty. Music is universal. Yes, it touches us. It's part of all of our lives. All of our memories have some sort of music correlated to it. You know, even a little baby, we sing lullabies to children, right? To ease them, to soothe them. So yeah, music is really the universal language. That's really how I look at it. And to connect to one another is all about communication,
Hmm.
whether it's body language, that's another universal language, body language, music, actual words, different linguists, right? So really, it's about, I feel connection is about communication because that's really all we have. Like I can communicate with an animal,
Hmm.
in body language. I don't have to say meow meow or woof woof, right? It's a language. And even they might not understand music, but they understand my emotion. They understand
Yes.
my body language. And so communication, whether it's energy that you're putting out, right?
Energy. Energy.
Energy, right? It's all energy. And there's energy in everything we do. I one time heard Oprah say years ago, before I even got into Science of Mind, she said something to the effect of, since we're all made of energy, be careful of what energy you're putting out there
Hmm.
because you are responsible for that energy that you're putting out that then gets to somebody else, right? That somebody else receives. So that made me really think more mindfully about my presence, my what I'm offering to the world. My Do I get angry? Of course. Do I have moments? Do I have, I lose myself and I, say ridiculous things or complain or, and am judgmental? Absolutely. But I think if we could all be a little more mindful of the energy that we are putting out, then of course we'll have better energy that's coming at us because if everybody is on that same wavelength of putting out good energy, then it's better for the world.
I agree. I'm also going to jump in here and say, though, that one of the beautiful things about, having this experience that we're having right now, and, whether you think of it in science of mind terms or you think of it in quantum theory terms, is that we're always choosing. And so we always, being on the receiving end, we're always choosing whether or not we're going to receive and take in, integrate, and allow that energy that's vibing coming at, not even coming at us, because it's just like it's all happening, right? It's all
Absolutely.
interconnected. Whether or not we're going to let ourselves be affected by it in a way that isn't doesn't feel good, let's just say it
Absolutely.
that way. So yeah, I totally agree with you. And then I also think, yeah, like we have a responsibility for how we show up and what we're giving off. And then we also have a responsibility to ourselves to go, just because you're having a moment or you think that way or you feel that way doesn't mean that I need to buy into it. Thank
Absolutely. And it's really, and that comes to knowing who you are, know thyself,
you. Yeah.
right? Because when it's so easy to fall victim to that race consciousness or to
Hmm.
want to people please or to not want to like impose all of that. But really, when you are in complete alignment and really know who you are and in that balance spot, that sweet spot, right,
Yeah.
of balance, I think you do say, no, sorry, that I'm not going to participate with that energy, or
Yeah.
you hold on to your strengths. You're just stronger in your beliefs. You're stronger in your fortitude when you're connected to your highest self, I believe. you
Yeah.
know and I do think I kind of, there's someday my next chapter, maybe another chapter, is I would love to write, somebody told me I should write a children's book or a book, because I have this great title, that it's a belief that I hold. It's yum or yuck,
You telling me
right?
about the
So
yummer yuck.
it's, do you follow the yum and do you step away from the yuck? And it's really training your inner guidance system, your GPS, to really be in tune with that, because it's all right here. The vibrations are all right here, and it's what ones you want to tune into.
Yep.
It's yum or yuck. So
Yeah.
I've kind of, when I was told that about 20 years ago, somebody used that expression, and I was like, wow, I love that. I'm going to use that from now on. Is it yum or yuck? And if it feels yum, go for it. And if it feels yuck, get the hell out. Run, run.
And I say, don't box yourself into a children's book. I'd read that book.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Is that a musical? That's got to be a musical.
The
Ooh,
musical.
it could be.
Yuck, yuck, yuck.
Oh, all right. I think we got something going here. I like it.
um, okay, Honey, there were things that were popping into mind, but Honey Bunch, do you wanna chime in here with anything?
Oh boy.
I would love to, but since I'll let Glenn. No. Yes, Honey Bunch, I would love to.
I'm the other honey bunch.
The other Honey Bunch. Oh yeah, okay.
Cute.
Well, I was just wanted to point out that what both of you were speaking about there was when Lassia was mentioning the algorithm thing from Social Dilemma, and the idea of feeding, more and more of less and less to each person, and they narrow that focus, and it seems it just throws them off kilter because they're playing the role of their digital self that just keeps getting more and more refined, um, and being fed more and more of that stuff. And you were mentioning earlier about the expectations that people have for you, that you focus on when you are in some way, you're in a relationship with them and you feel some kind of a responsibility. That's sort of the same thing. Like you're just like, I do this now in this moment. This is what I'm all about. All the other stuff I know I'm capable of. No, I'm
100%. It mirrors life, really. We do that in our lives all the time. We shrink ourselves down to fit into a certain um, s- race consciousness box in a way, or just to not rock the boat or to please people. And I think that narrowing down is really doing us ourselves a disservice, whether it's on social, whether it's a social media thing or whether it's just ourselves in our lives. It is any sort of narrowing, and I won't even say narrowing. I will say edging everything else out
right, right.
really is what it is. It's the energy of
Yeah.
edging edging everything else out, everything
Mhm.
else that you are, because we are all so much bigger than we really play in life, I think. And those people who can own that bigness in their life, you see it. You see those types of people that just like walk into a room and people go, "Oh my God, who's that? Do I know them?" Like, wow, they're like, you just feel their energy and their presence because they really know who they are. They are, you know, there's the self confidence, the self assuredness, and a vulnerability. I think embracing our vulnerability is a huge part of it too. Not being afraid to show that vulnerability is a big part of it. But yeah, not edging out all of who we are. We play way too small to ourselves, and just not big enough. And we owe it to ourselves to play big, I think.
Yeah, that's part of the yum, right?
That's part of the yum, right? Right. I want a little of this over here. Ooh, with a little chocolate cake over there. A little barbecue spare ribs. Little yum. Right.
We're
Everything's
back
yum.
at the buffet like we were at the last episode.
Oh, there you go. See? Yeah, and it is. It really is. It's about listen, the universe is unlimited, right? We know that. In whether it's quantum physics, science of mind, religious science, we know that the universe is unlimited. So why are we limiting ourselves?
Hmm.
To me, it makes no sense. Live unlimited.
Hmm.
Yes. Do we have limited in our physicality? Of course.
Well, the
I
way
can't.
we think so, anyway.
Well,
I
we
mean,
think so, and so therefore it is, right? As a collective, we believe that we age, we go gray, and we do this, and we do,
mhm.
right? So, of course, as a collective, because we believe that, it manifests to be true, right? But there's what we call mythological stories of, Methuselah lived 900 years, right? That people lived, hundreds and hundreds at one point. We now go up, yeah, right, that's mythology, but who knows what's really capable. Science today is already showing that in 10 years, 10 or 20 years, the lifespan, or the average lifespan, people could live to 120 years old in the next.
120, vibrant 120. When I had
Yeah,
my
yeah,
assignment in
vibrant,
practitioner studies, that's what I said. I'm living
right.
to a vibrant 120.
So if that is possible and capable, and which it is, then why are we limiting ourselves to this little algorithm, this little thing? Why are we getting so wrapped up in? I just was in an argument with with my family member on Facebook that just went over and over and over, and it was like getting dizzying because we were both just hammering this small little point, and yet we agree on everything. So it's like, well, if we're agreeing, why are we like publicly killing each other over this one little thing that really is minute in the grand scheme of the world? Like, it doesn't make sense. And I just kind of was like, that's fine. I'd rather be happy than right. I don't need to prove that my point of view is right. I don't. You know what? You're right. And I'm not saying that in a facetious way. I'm not like saying, oh yeah, you're right. No, really, I'd rather just be happy. I don't need to prove anything, because maybe I am right, maybe she is right. It doesn't matter really, because there should be no right or wrong. There should be no good or bad for me. There's I don't look at things as good or bad anymore. Are they painful experiences? Yes. But for me, the universe is always trying to balance itself. And sometimes the route to what you want, the more direct route to what you want, might have to go through some stuff that's uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And so instead of judging things as good and bad, why don't we just see it as the universe pushing us through quicker to what we want by going through this muddy forest or this uncomfortable place? If we know that the universe is always working for us, if the universe is always working for our benefit, then all the stuff that we perceive as bad might actually just be a little discomfort. And while it might be painful, I don't want to dismiss anybody's grief or anybody's pain or
Yep.
physical pain. I'm not trying to dismiss that. What I'm trying to say is, if we can see it be easier about it, then we get through it quicker. In my experience, I find you get through the painful things quicker when you are at more ease with it and an easier understanding of it. You
Yeah.
know?
And
Yeah.
I would like to add to that, that it's, for a lot of people, it can be a very goal oriented sort of, trip where, I just got to get through this and then I'll be there, like that's what I'm aiming for. So I just got to, whatever, when really the journey is just as valuable. And so if you are constantly, sort of fighting or trying to avoid or skirt or detour around or whatever, you're missing all of these incredible opportunities to actually sink into or lean into something that is wanting to come up, wanting to be experienced. I mean, that's not to say where, if you get a strong gut feeling that like back off, listen, because that's your intuition, that's your gut, that is something that is like when your spidey sense is tingling, that's a good thing. But if it's just like, oh, I don't want to be uncomfortable, or I, like this is making me feel gross, but sometimes we need to go through that so that we actually can expand, right? Like that's part of the expansion, is
Absolutely.
like this container that we're in, this vessel, whatever it is, it's got to be cracked open like that little chick out of the egg, because otherwise it just becomes toxic and you can't survive in this
And
existing
you might
container
not know what
anymore.
you do want unless you know what you don't want,
Hmm.
right? And so sometimes we have to go through the things that we don't want in order to know what it is that we really do want to focus on and put our attention on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a metaphor that I like to use for this, and it's like, you've ordered Joe's Pizza, and the pizza is sitting there at Joe's store, and it's across town, and Main Street is the direct route, right? And everybody will tell you Main Street's the direct route. Even Tom Hanks uses Main Street, and since he got famous, then Main Street must be the way to go, because that's how you get your good hot pizza. But then you punch in your GPS. Like, to me, life is a GPS, right? And the GPS has a satellite perspective, a
Yeah.
broader perspective
Yeah.
of your route. and it sees that there's a sinkhole in the middle of Main Street that you didn't know about that popped up last night. So it wants to take you down 6th Street, through Washington, down Riverside, and up 19th Street. But you think, but that's a dangerous neighborhood. And so now you're going through the dangerous neighborhood like this because you're afraid and you're not seeing that. Oh, by the way, there's a hardware store and I needed to pick up batteries and I could have stopped there, but no, you're already in this mode, and you try and force your car to go up 10th Street to try and get back to Main Street. And by doing that, you're now out of alignment, and now you run into, you run over a bottle that's in the road and you get a flat tire, and now you're just all verklempt. And whereas if we could take life as just going with the flow, riding that wave, you're going to get to Joe's Pizza like that and get your delicious hot pizza.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be groovy. So that's how I see the universe, and I'm always trying to I know you had Dr. James Mellon on the show, and he's our minister, my minister, and I'll never forget. Great story. I was coming out of some class out of the center, and it was at nighttime, and everybody was leaving, and I got in my car, and my car wasn't turning over, and there was that panic moment, right?
Yeah.
And everybody else was leaving, and he was the last one out of the office, and I went, oh, Dr. James, my car won't start, and he turned around and he went, good. And I was like, good. Like, I was insulted, but I didn't want to let him know. And I was like, inside, I was like, what did he say? Did he not hear me? Does he not understand what I'm... So I called back and I said, no, my car won't start. And he went, good, maybe it's protecting you from an accident or traffic, or maybe the AAA guy is your love of your life. You don't know. Let the universe do its thing. Go with the flow.
Yeah.
And he got in his car and he left. And I was like,
he left.
I was like, what? And then immediately got my car, and I absorbed what he said. I got in the car, I turned the ignition, and it went right on.
Yeah.
And maybe it's true. Maybe I just needed that 5-minute buffer to protect me from traffic or something, or who knows what. And so that really, honestly, that moment stuck with me so much that it really shifted the way I think about, the bad things, putting judgment or putting a label on what we call the chaos or the out of balanceness, right? Because don't worry, the universe will shift back. Don't worry, the universe will, if you're on this side, don't worry, it's going to shift over time, and then it's going to get back here. Of course, we all want to get to that center where you're just riding that perfect, safe spot. But life happens, and when that does, just shift back into your balance instead of resisting it and fighting up against it. I think that's the issue that brings so many people such pain and discomfort. It's their resistance to it instead of just allowing it to be.
Yeah, it reminds me of Eric Butterworth saying it came to pass. Not just like this too shall pass, but it came to pass. So whatever it is that is being experienced, whether you label it good, bad, sweet, sour, savory, chewy, in between, whatever, it came to pass. It's temporary. It's like, there's always change. There's always, creativity happening. And then the other part, because you've used the word untethered, is Michael Singer and the Untethered Soul, where to just
I'm reading it now.
Oh.
I just started reading it. I'm on chapter 2.
Oh, I read that book a few years ago, and it just such a beautiful, beautiful book for me. I really, really, really appreciated it, because the biggest thing that I got out of it was just to let your feelings be. Just like don't even let them go. Just let them be, and just allow them to sort of pass through, to experience them. And that's it. That's all you need to do. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to analyze them. You don't have to wonder why. Just, allow yourself the gift of feeling, because like Eric Butterworth says, it came to pass, which means that at some point, they'll move on, you move on, and it just, there's this flow. And so to not get attached and not get stuck in the muck, or, to go through hell and not build a condo there kind of thing. It just, that's what it was. That's what it was.
I like that. Not build a condo there. It's true.
I don't think that that's the exact quote. I think it's a Tom Costa thing, and it might've been, don't pitch a tent, but right. I heard, who was it? He's now a minister. Reverend Fred. I'm totally blanking out his last name. Anyway, from CSL Toronto, Welcome Home Toronto, but now I think he's moved to Niagara Falls. But he studied with Dr. James when the latest crop of ministers, studied and graduated. But he was giving a talk many years ago at CSL Toronto while we were still in Toronto, and he used that line. You can go through hell, just don't build a condo there. And I'm like, that's awesome! I love that.
I love it. I'm stealing that one. Yeah.
Yeah, the condo fees will kill you.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. You just manifest more money, right?
That's right. His name's Fred Wimet, right, Lass?
Right. Yes, Wimet. That's it. Okay.
Oh, yes, I've heard of him. I've never heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh boy. Yeah, that you've mentioned a few times mythology and storytelling, and this is kind of where I'm landing at the moment. Is it's just everything is story, that you can look at time as a linear kind of progression. You can look at history as being a linear progression. But if you look at it as story, then it's more like a mythology. It's like a little sampling of this type of mythology or myth, this type of, hero's journey, this type of various tropes that come up, archetypes, that kind of stuff. I think for me, it's easier to see whatever's happening as being, it's just story that we're selecting. Like you said about your family member or friend on Facebook, where you're each telling your own version of the same story, but slightly arguing about a tiny sliver of, and it's like an impassable, we can't get through this, but if you zoom out and just see it as a story, every story is going to end, right? But people like hearing stories. People like being involved in stories. Drama is what, since we've been around the campfire, it's always been like, oh, what happened? And flickering shadows and all that kind of stuff. We're absorbed. We are creations of that. I think we are like, I think human beings kind of evolved out of dreams. They didn't like the consciousness is part of that kind of cycle of dreaming that you are something or you're capable of something, waking up and experiencing it, and then dealing with the emotions and the sort of challenges, and then at the end of the day you kind of download it to your dream self, and then you're slightly changed, and then you might go do the same thing 3-4 days in a row, or go back, marry the same dude for a year, whatever. But you're just like, for me, it's stories are more, I think what it is, it's like you're choosing out of this thing of infinite potentiality. You're just choosing. You're not saying that's all that's available. I am this tiny sliver of what a human is capable of. I only play this role. You're basically saying, or I think it benefits you to say, I'm going to try this today. I'm going to read a different book, watch a different movie, be a different character in this book I love, that kind of thing. Because then you can relax and then be more out of that.
Yeah. Well, Joel Goldsmith says, one of my favorite quotes, life is nothing but a parenthesis in eternity, right? We start with a parenthesis. We start with the first parentheses. We have our existence, and then we have closed parentheses, but we're still an eternal being. We just happen to be in a physical world right now. And so I think while we're in the parentheses, story, we create our own, we write our own screenplays, right? We this is why we love movies so much, because there's, the protagonist and the antagonist and the climax of the drama and it's the roller coaster ride. One of my favorite scenes in the movie Parenthood with Steve Martin is at the very end. He's tried to keep his life all together and he's always been an uptight guy. And at the end, he realizes the joy of the chaos. And as his kids are running around the stage and the pants are falling off and the one kid's kicking the other kid and it's all silly and crazy and everybody else is laughing, he's hearing that roller coaster, which he used to always dread, and now realizing, oh, but the roller coaster brings joy. You can have joy on a roller. You can let yourself go in the chaos and actually enjoy the ride. And I think, so I think story for people, we are creating our own story constantly. And getting back to that, just don't camp in it, or don't make it your condo or whatever. Like, don't sit we get stuck in our stories so often. And it's really being brave enough. I do use that term because I think so many of us are just not brave enough to get out of that story, to really break through. And because there's a comfort there, let's face it, there's comfort in the known, right? It's scary to dip your toe into the water of the unknown.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we sit in our story way beyond its time. Like way past the necessity of it. And I think that's where discomfort and depression and all that comes from, is when we're stuck in our story. But when we can use the story and move the story along, right? I think that's what really behooves us in our growth and in our life, and the others around us, is growing and creating that story together. It's all about being, creating it all together. I mean, we're here together. Yes. Are we individuals? Yes. Do we have different ideas? And even like my family member on Facebook, we have the same philosophy, but we differ on one little idea, right? And so we all have our uniqueness, but we can use our uniqueness in that ebb and flow of these cool stories and create something new and fun and more and better, and or not. Even that's our choice, right? Or even not. So story is a big part. I come from, even my mom was very much a storyteller. That was part of her occupation. As she got older and retired, she became a professional storyteller. And a lot of the women in my family were big storytellers. It was just part of our culture. And so even as a lyricist in music, I'm always trying to tell the story. And even in today's music, the artists that pop out for me are the ones that are telling story. I think story is, it's because it is all that is in that parentheses, right? We don't have anything outside of the parentheses. We are energy, but we don't really maintain story. So when we're in our life parentheses, all we have is story. So let's make the most of our story, really. That's how I look at it.
So speaking of story, about, we're all in it together, of energy and moving things along. Donia, will you play us a tune?
Yes, and I will play a song called Together, because I know you heard it, and that's why I would be delighted. So it's funny, I wrote this because my bestie, Sheila, she was at a family reunion, and one of her cousins got up and said, well, we may not have it all together, but whenever we're together, we have it all. And she told me that story, and I was like, oh my God, I just love that line. It's so perfect, and it's so true. The world may be falling apart, and it might feel like chaos, and our lives might be a mess, but when we're together as people coming together, then we have it all. We really do, because we can use each other's skills and blessings and talents to get through this life. Right? So, so I decided to write a song about it. Some people say that you stand in my way. I could be living on a bed of ease. Still others too say I'm no good for you. you let me do just as I please. Now dysfunction comes easy, but you know how to please me, so I learned to look the other way. Sometimes life is hard, we're not dealt all the cards, but we won't let that stand in our way. We may not have it all together, and our problems might not seem so small. You know, we may not have it all together, but together we have it all. Now, my family is crazy, and your friends all are lazy, but we learn to love them through and through. Ain't that the truth? Your mother's unsympathetic, and she's unapologetic, but I knew that when I said I do. Now we're broke, tired, and hungry, and we ain't got no money, and we can't have things the way we should. Our lives may be flawed, but you got to thank God for the bad things as well as the good. We may not have it all together, and our problems might not seem so small. I said we may not have it all together, but together we have it all. Oh baby, oh baby, honey, we're broke, tired, and hungry, and we ain't got no money, and they can judge us for those things that we have not, but we got more when we're together than we do when we're apart. Oh baby, I got you, you got me, together we're a family. May not have it all together. I said we may not have it all together. I said we may not have it all together, but together, together we have it all. Whew. And that's the truth. That's the truth.
All right.
Oh, that is such a great line. We may not have it all together, but when we're together, we have it all. Brilliant.
Isn't it great? I wish I could take credit for it, but it was my friend's cousin said it. And I was like, wow, that's brilliant. I'm stealing that. Yay, cousins. Yeah. I mean, really, and it's true. Like, you know, when things are falling apart, you want people by your side, right? You know, it's hard. Like, look at what we're in right now, this time of coronavirus. I live alone and it's hard, but I'm grateful that I have Zoom and I have friends and neighbors and I have people in my life. We need our peeps, you know, we need to have that togetherness. And yeah, it's amazing that in this day and age, we don't remember that. Almost, it feels like lately, especially politically and what's going on in the world, it just feels like we are not remembering that. We're not remembering that together is better than apart. We're not remembering that we need each other. Like I said right before the song, we can utilize each other's skills and talents. If we're more together, look what we can do with everybody's accessibility and unlimitedness, right? If everybody is unlimited and we can be together in our unlimitedness, what could we do in our, like, how awesome could our world be, you know?
Well, and you know, it's interesting that you say and you ask that, because I think that, you know, we're coming on a year now since COVID-19 sort of made its big, you know, appearance kind of thing, and changed the world in so many ways. And I think my experience still is that there are a lot of people that are sort of still waiting for, you know, get back to normal, you know, that somehow what was going on before COVID, you know, like that this was a delineating thing, but it's, you know, there will be the post-COVID will go back to, you know, some kind of normal that we remember, when really, I mean, it's been a year. It's been a year, and there's
I don't even fit in the same pants from a year ago. So, you know I'm not going back to the same pants, let alone the same life.
And this is one of those things that we were talking about earlier on, where, you know, you were talking about sort of, you know, going to get the pizza and how, you know, there's this direct route, but then, you know, the GPS tells you, oh, but this. Well, this corona virus, and everything that is kind of coming out of it, that I see it as these detours, as these, these sort of stops along the way, these opportunities. I mean, man, Zoom has exploded, like these platforms where people can get together online, and have conversations and engage in this way has exploded. Technology is changing because of it, to be able to allow people to do things better instead of just being able to talk one at a time, and not sort of, interrupt each other or block each other out. And that's evolution, that's expansion, that's, that's what we're in right now. So I say let's embrace it. And one of the cool things about
Absolutely.
Zoom, there's no masks on Zoom, right? We can
Right.
see each other, we can see each other's faces,
Exactly.
we can, like, enjoy each other's smiles and facial expressions, and there's extra twinkling of the eyes and whatever. And there's like the good lighting and everything that can, come with the little, change your appearance or whatever on Zoom.
Yeah.
So there's good stuff, there's new stuff, there's different stuff. And I would love to, just keep continuing to lean into what is happening, rather than, well, the vaccines are coming out. Once people get vaccines, then we don't have to wear the mask. We can all run around and like crowd together and whatever.
And I
Maybe.
think too, when you embrace the discomfort or the things that are uncomfortable, like coronavirus, it's a horrible thing. Yes. But when you embrace the situation, when you embrace that chaos, um, then the universe flows better for me anyway. I know that, like, honestly, coronavirus is a horrible thing, but if it wasn't for coronavirus, I would have never driven across country to get my mom.
Yep.
I would have never had the last year with her. I would have never had that intimacy and that closure. And so I'm grateful for the experience that has been put upon me. I'm not grateful for coronavirus. There are people dying. It's a horrible thing. I have friends who have died from it, and I'm not discounting that. But I think when you are able to allow this fluidity of what's happening and embrace the chaos as just the universe balancing itself. This is really, that's how I see it. The universe is trying to balance itself. The universe knows what the mass consciousness wants, what the race consciousness wants. We want certain things in our world to be, we want to have better technology. We want to have better health and better, scientific research and better things like that. And in a way, this is kind of the universe's way of going, okay, well, let's facilitate that maybe. I don't know. I don't know how it comes to pass, but I just know that when you embrace the chaos, beautiful things can come out of it if you're willing to be open to that. If you're wanting to stay in your condo, you're going to see coronavirus as just only one aspect of it. And that's it. That's another thing I want to kind of talk about is its perspective.
Yeah.
Like Glenn was saying, even with my family member on Facebook, it's perspective. What do you see? And can you change your perspective? Are you willing to be open? That's really what it is. Are you willing to be open to change your perspective, to see things from a different light, to hear what other people have to say about it, and form a new opinion, and broaden your perspective? Because I feel the more broad you get, the higher perspective you have, you get more of a universal perspective of things, and then it's easier to see it. When you can't see the forest for the trees, it's very frustrating. And there's pain there, and there's anger there, and there's frustration there, and there's sadness there. But when you can just step back a little bit and say, okay, I'm willing to allow this to flow through, and I'm just going to ride the wave and see what happens. Life is just easier. It's a wave, really. It's a frequency. It's a wave. It's a ease. It's hopping in the boat, pulling in your oars, and holding on for dear life and see what happens. You know what I mean? And on the roller coaster, put your hands up and go woohoo, as opposed to oh. It's that Steve Martin moment in Parenthood. It really is. It's that. Do you hold on for dear life, or do you let it all go and go with the flow?
Yeah.
Knowing that the universe is working for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's my big thing. I know Dr. James says life is unfolding perfectly. Um, I personally have a little hard time with the verbiage of that because the word perfect to me, I'm stuck. This is my own person. I know that I'm stuck with the word perfect. I have some biases with that word.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I like the phrase that the universe is working for me. I
Mm-hmm.
always say life is unfolding, life is working out for me. That's how I like to say it. Life is working out for me. And if I know that, then when the bad things come, I go, well, they're not comfortable. It sucks, but I know the universe is working for me. So I'm going to allow it and wrestle through it and get through it as easy as I can, even though it's painful, even though it hurts.
Yeah.
But I know that on the other side of that, there's something bigger and better and the potentiality of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So really that's for me, it's knowing, it's really getting into that knowing that the universe is working for you, period.
Yeah.
If people could really embrace that, it's a hard thing to embrace though. It really is. For a lot of people, I know it's hard for people to think in those terms. But first you have to know that there is only one thing. There is only one energy. There is only one of us. There's only one of all of us. We're united in that we are one. I am the tree. I am you. I am the dog, whatever. And once you know that we are all just one energy, and that the universe is working for you because the universe is that same energy, then it takes a lot of that pressure off, I think. It takes a lot of the pressure of the pains of life, having to get through the pains of life. You don't have to struggle as hard if you just, accept.
I think it can, and I do agree with you, Donya. I am of the belief, and I know with every fiber of my being that there's just one universal energy right now, and part of that is because not only does it just land and make sense for me, there's no other argument that has come along, to sort of dissuade me from that. Um, and I know for me, when I first sort of heard that, around 5 years ago or whatever it was, when we first stepped into CSL Toronto, when Reverend Jonathan Zenz was speaking, was for me, that was very liberating, to hear that there is just one thing going on, call it whatever you want to call it. But ultimately, it's energy. If you just go to quantum science, everything is energy. So if there's only one thing, it stands to reason, like you just said, I am that energy. You are that energy. The tree, the microphone, this time together is that energy. Everything is a unique, individualized expression of that energy that has come to pass. And that, that for me was very liberating. But for some people, I can see how it could also be kind of scary, because then it means that, you know what? You're accountable, you're responsible for your own life and your life experience, not something outside of you, not some force, not some deity, not, it's up to you. Yes, there is this universal flow, this infinite quantum field with these waves of potentiality that are constantly collapsing, like now kind of thing, and constantly being, the universe being created anew. But to know that, like, you are, to some degree in charge of that, can be very, very daunting for some people. And so I can see why for some people it would be more comfortable to go, I prefer to believe that there is someone or something outside of me that has the ultimate control, because for me to be able to, I'll use the word pray to something rather than as something right now, that's what works for me.
Well, it's
Which,
the Marianne Williamson quote. Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure.
yes, and I
That's
love that. I love that quote. But for me, it's more about just also acknowledging, kind of like when we were talking about feelings and things coming up, acknowledging where people are, in their beliefs, and to not,
100%.
I mean, when I first, heard about this stuff, I'm like, I want to tell everyone. but that's not where everybody is.
True.
That's not what everyone, believes or can wrap their heads around or makes sense for them and whatever. So for me, it's like it's as I go further into my own journey, my spiritual studies, these advanced consciousness studies that I'm in, which really are just like ripping out the foundation of everything that I have studied for so hard for the last 4.5 years. But it also is super cool because it's kind of like those waves of potentiality just constantly
Right.
collapsing, as something brand new every single moment. It's about questioning everything. And, has what I've been thinking up until now, does it still land? Does it still work? And if not, well, okay, asking the questions and opening that shift in perspective, allowing for that to happen, so that continual evolution and that expansion that is always, always, always happening, no matter
Right.
what. But
Right.
like you said, I am in alignment with that,
Well, it's funny because it reminds me what you just said reminds me a lot of Kyle Cease talked about. I don't know quite know what it's called, the 4 stages of life or 4 stages of consciousness or the 4 stages. And basically, he said there's 4 stages to like the way people think, right? There's an egg and you're inside the egg and you don't know anything outside the egg. So life is blissful because
Yeah.
you're just in an egg, right? And then the second stage is that there's a hole in the egg and you can see out of the hole and you can see that there's stuff going on outside the egg, but you're very comfortable in your egg. So you're not going anywhere. You're just going to stay in the egg with the hole in it, right? And then there's the consciousness of people that are outside of the egg. Now you've gotten outside of the egg, you're brave enough to get outside of the egg, and you think you're super cool because you're outside of the egg and all your friends are outside the egg, and you can even fly a little bit, but you always come home to the nest. You're
Yeah.
still a little tethered to that nest and to your friends and to the comfort of that. And that's where most people, I think, sit, somewhere between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
They sit in between 2 and 3, either afraid to come out or out, but not quite free. And then the fourth stage, and this is my favorite when he said it, there is no egg.
Yeah.
Or like in the Matrix, there is no spoon.
Yeah.
Or like, Joel Goldsmith, it's just a parentheses, And I think a lot of it is it's this it's mortality, right? And I think we're going to get into a kind of a big subject here, but since in watching my mom pass and experiencing the death process recently, and just my own beliefs and my philosophies, and hearing a lot of Abraham Hicks talk about it, I personally believe that there is no death. There is a sting of death. There is a physical transformation out of non-physical into out of physical into the non-physical. But I really think we get so stuck on the death experience that everything in our life is building up to the fear of that death experience. So we have to have all this perfection and all this comfort and all this stuff because we're afraid we're going to all lose our stuff when we hit the death experience. If you've heard people like Anita Morjani or people who have had near-death experiences, they say from what they believe is on the other side is this 360 omniscient, all-knowing love bath that you can be in and out of every dimension and simultaneously, and it's just every single color in the universe is vibrant and present, and it's just this omniscient, all-knowing. So to me, that sounds so much more exciting than, you know what I mean? And so to me, I think if we could free ourselves from the fear of the death experience, and know that we really are, this is just a parenthesis in eternity, that we came from nothing and we go back to nothing, but it's not no thing. It's the whole thing really is what it is. And if we could get comfortable with that, it's hard for most people, I think. And it's not a popular topic. But that's kind of my belief. And in seeing my mom pass, and knowing that for her, if that is true, if that's where she is right now in this love bath of omniscience, geez, then she's right here, she's everywhere, she's nowhere, she's, it's just, and how beautiful is that? And so that takes a lot of the fear for me out of that death experience of what I have to do before I die, what I have to get accomplished before I die. You know what I mean? Yeah, and that's why when the very first question you asked me, who do I think I am? I don't think I'm anything, but I know I'm everything. Right? Because if I think I'm one thing or a thing, then there is a specific journey that has to go through before I die. But no, I'm no thing, I'm everything. So that's really what I mean by that when I say I don't think I'm anything, but I know I'm everything.
I love that answer. And as I don't know what episode we're on right now. 16 or something with you. I mean, it feels like, ooh, like we're just, amassing all these episodes now. And I've thought over the last, few weeks, how would I answer that question? If someone asked me, and I'm like, I'm glad no one's asking me that question because I don't have an answer. And yours is the closest thing because it, I mean, every single moment is a brand spanking new moment. Every single moment, I'm a brand spanking new me or like a newer version of me. And so there are the labels that come into play. There are the things that I do. There are the things, that I am in relationship to someone else, like wife of Glenn, mother of Milana, sister of, my sister, and
Friend of Donia.
Friend of Donia. Student of Donia.
That's right.
Piano player.
You are officially.
And but those are all roles. Those are all just aspects. It's not, and to sort of say even, I am, that universal energy, that fluidity, that would la 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 la, whatever. But like, I really like the, I am nothing and I am everything, because that just keeps it wide open and just basically brings it all home at the same time and keeps it fluid, keeps it active, keeps it, just everything is possible, and yeah, so good.
Yeah.
And I have loved so many of the answers because there have been some really juicy, amazing, like, oh my God, I can't believe someone just said that. And then there have been the more sort of, I don't want to say typical, but because of a lot of the guests who've been on so far have been ministers or coaches or, people who sort of, are in a certain field or subscribe to a certain way of thinking, that there have been similarities in a lot of, the answers that have come up. So this is, it's fresh.
Oh, thank you. Fresh.
But yeah, I really like, how would I answer? And yours is the closest to what sort of like, yeah, I love the just, there's no box, there's no instructions, there's no limitation. It just is, like.
It's funny because it came up this week in another conversation with someone else. And they asked me, we were talking about worthiness. And because I was saying how I was feeling stuck, I was getting smaller and smaller into that kind of linear thinking of I have to be just this musician. And so the topic of worthiness came up. And I said, sometimes, and I'll be very honest, sometimes it's very hard for me to put a dollar amount on my worthiness because I always have called myself a jack of all trades, master of none. I don't have certifications and certain qualifications and a degree.
Belief.
No, of course. No, right. So, but I think because again, that I don't think I'm anything, but I know I'm everything, came up because the truth is I don't feel necessarily qualified or certified in any one thing. I wouldn't say I'm an expert in this or I'm an expert in that, but I am I have the facility to do anything. And I've always said, even as a little kid, I used to say, I can do anything.
Yeah.
And really hold that belief that I can do anything. Because my belief is, if it's, first of all, if it's already been done, well, then why can't I do it? If it's already been manufactured or made or produced or done, then it's just a matter of, do I want to do it? I don't want to do brain surgery, but if I had to, and if I had to go to school and medical school to do it, I could do it. I
Yeah.
could, right? It's possible. So to me, anything that's been done is possible. So that has already freed me up to possibility. Now, the stuff that hasn't been done, that's a little more of a challenge for me, I'll admit. Like, okay, can I do that? I don't know. Yes, I think I can. And so that's really where that when the question came up, who do you think you are? It really is, that is really my being, my essence. I don't think I'm anything. I don't think I'm any one particular expert in it. I don't have a title. I don't have, right? But I am everything, and I have the capability of being anything. So that's really where I think the answer came from. It came out of a conversation about my own worthiness, and where do I see that, and how do I put a dollar amount on my worthiness if I don't feel qualified in certain things, or it's a perception that I think people won't want something from me if I don't have a certification or a doctorate or a degree. So, and that's just a false belief that's kind of trickling around in there. That's got to go away now. That I've said it in public. So now it's gone. I'm going to move that out of the way, and I'm going to be my biggest self that I can be now.
Yeah.
So see, there you go.
All right. So you don't have to tell us, but did you come up with something that you felt comfortable with in terms of, your worth and a dollar and a value?
No, not in that way.
Okay.
But I did come up with saying, I'm worth it.
Okay.
If you want something from me, I'm whatever this guy's charging, I'm worth that and more.
Yeah.
So I haven't put a specific dollar on it yet, because that from case to case too. I'm a project oriented artist, so I might have a small project here and a big project there. So I can't really say I'm $50 an hour or whatever. Like, I have to base it on projects. I have to base it on my passion. I have to base it on a lot of things. But I will say, whatever that guy's charging and doing the same job, I know I'm going to do the same job because I'm capable of doing the same job. As I just expressed, I'm capable of doing anything. But I'm coming to you with passion, with experience, with love and authenticity and vulnerability. So that you can't put a price on. So whatever he's charging, I'm going to charge that and a little more, or maybe not more. Maybe I'll just charge that, but you can give me more, because you're going to see the value in it. You're going to see my value in what I'm giving you. So yeah, I think I'm coming to that place. It's still a work in progress. I'll be honest. It's part of my journey, is chiseling away at that feeling of, and I was talking to Dr. James the other day about it, and it comes a lot from, we were talking on with Glenn on the Monday Let's Talk. A lot of it comes from being in this business. You deal with a lot of rejection, and you deal with a lot of ridicule. Celebrities know this. You get to a certain level, and then people want to tear you down. Because of your success. And so it's going through. It's having the strength to weather that storm.
Yeah.
Of ridicule, rejection, abandonment, haters. Listen, I have almost 10 million. I'm like something like 50,000 away from 10 million views on my one video. And there's like 3,000, 4,000 comments, and there's a good 500 that are mean, like just downright mean. And I could say, no, just don't read them. Don't pay attention to that. Yeah. But I'm curious what people have to say, and I want to know. But it's amazing how people can be so mean. And yet I just have to ride that wave and not let the energy affect me. I can be privy to it. I can see it. It's like turning on the news. I can see what's happening on the news, but do I let it affect my energy? Do I let it, do I allow it in? So I'm learning to build that skill of just not allowing it in and not letting it affect who I really am. Because who I really am, I know I know my worth. I know what I can do. I know I'm pretty cool and awesome. And I have a CV, as you read in the beginning, that proves it. Um, yeah. So yeah, I'm getting there. I'm a work in progress, as we all are. Really, we're all a work in progress.
Yep. Yep. Goddess of soul, work in progress.
Yeah, oh, I love it. Goddess of Gold and work in progress. Yeah, perfect. Really.
Well, speaking of goddess of soul, do we have time for one more tune?
Absolutely. Yeah. You want another one?
Yeah, yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay. Let's do now I gotta think of what one. So I talked earlier about how most of my songs are social justice oriented or just wanting to teach about mindfulness and respect and kindness, consideration. And so this is a song I wrote a while back on that subject. Look me in the eye when I'm talking to you. Stare me in my soul. Don't just look right through. Don't just respond with a phrase that's contrived. We gotta stop one another so we still feel alive. Too much ignorance with privilege, dumbing down a sacrilege, undereducated fear that leads to hatred. Dignity, what's that? We got war and combat, telling lies in disguise. No one tries, you gotta step up, my brother. You gotta step up, my sister too. Gotta step up now, people. I said respect is all you need if you wanna see the world improve. And I do believe that. Now, you gotta give me some respect if you want it back. Think before you move, don't just shoot to attack. Open up your heart so we connect man to man. Stop living your life just to pull off a scam. It's a quick fix with cliches, disposable and road rage. Money hungry nations bleed, ghettos speak high speed. Hard work, what's that? Pompous, pious, selfish brat. If we exceed too much greed, we will recede. You gotta step up, my brother. You gotta step up, my sister too. Gotta step up now, people. I said respect is all you need if you wanna see the world improve. Now, we can have a better life if we reunite. Peace, love, and laughter should replace the fight. Remember a time when there was no fear. Now too many mothers are shedding a tear. We gotta step up, find peace, elevate and release. Learn to acknowledge instead of battle. College conflict, what's that? Let's lay down a welcome mat, cause we can raise glory days in many ways. Gotta step up, my brother. You gotta step up, my sister too. Gotta step up now, people. I said respect, respect, respect is all you need. Step up, step up. Got to step up. Oh yeah, I said you gotta step up now, people. I said respect is all you need if you wanna see the world improve. And that's the truth.
Whoa. Ho, ho. I see a huge crowd, a stadium with lighters and banners and Oh my God. That was respect is all you need if you want to see the world improve. And I love the timing of, the lyrics, the way they came out in that too. That was amazing. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. Really. And I truly believe that. I do think that it's a matter of just being kind to one another, looking each
Mhm.
other in the eye, and we can have our differences, but we
Yep.
can also respect each other despite our differences.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's really what will make the world go round.
For
Yeah,
sure.
for
All
sure.
right. Mahoney, anything you want to
Well, I,
I gave I gave you a lot to think about.
yeah, there, the stuff here with the social justice, like that's kind of what I grew up with, like in terms of what I thought was important to spend my time um, paying attention to and being aware of. And, like most of the artists that, the soul stuff I loved when I was younger, mostly because of brothers and sisters, they bombarded me with good music, right? But when I was like a teenager, it became, I grew up partly in the UK and Ireland and the Northern Ireland, and it was very political, right? So everything was polarized in a certain way because Margaret Thatcher was prime minister, and there seemed to be a lot to rail against in terms of injustice, and that kind of those seeds were sown in my like what I needed to do, was like be aware of things like apartheid when that was sort of peaking in the sort of 80s into the 90s. Um, and I just thought this is what the only way to look at this. This was my view, right? And as I get older, it's like, well, that was true for me then, but I don't necessarily agree with all of the we'll call it older style left wing um, solutions, right? And people like Billy Bragg for me, like that, I was into the Jam and the Clash and the Specials and Billy Bragg, and their whole thing was like, you've got to change the world. Like, they had their Woody Guthrie's and their
Right.
their Bob
Bob
Marley.
Dylan's and
Yeah,
Bob
it was
Marley's,
like
yeah.
you tell the world, you tell through story and music what is possible, right? But there's certain things that still come up for me where I think, no, I don't believe that anymore. Like the one line that Billy Bragg has in one of his early songs, um, and it's all about like, in at 16 you were top of the class. No,
Trying to think.
anyway, it's basically like, you're a cog in the machine, right? And one of
Right.
the lines is, the system has failed, you don't fail yourself, right? And I realized recently, it's like, well, no, like that can't be your attitude forever. You've got to take hold, as Lassie was saying earlier, like you have a responsibility for your life and the way that you tell the story of your life. If there's always going to be victims and oppressors, then you're never going to get out of that circle, right?
Right.
You will only see whatever story's in front of you, the bad guy, the person who needs to be saved, the victim. And I appreciate what you said in your song, because I think what I'm getting out of it is you being kind and compassionate and seeing another human being as your brother or your sister, um, opening up in that way to whatever they're going to say that you may disagree with, and just saying, okay, I hear you. um, that's the path, instead of just taking your position and saying, this is what I'm all about, and I'm going to fight for it, I'm going to die on that hill and stuff, because that doesn't really get you anything except uh,
dying
death,
on the
right?
hill?
Well,
It's sort
well,
of,
it's like what Ernest Holmes says. Show me a man who's for something and against nothing, and I'll show you
Mhm.
the face of God.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I'm for um, loving you regardless of your beliefs and your our differences or whatever. I'm for the act
Mhm.
of of togetherness, of respect, of kindness to you. You know, there's a good friend of mine who's also a boogie woogie player. His name is Daryl Davis. He's been spotlighted,
Oh,
highlighted a lot. You know him, right? Here in the States, he is a black man who actually goes to KKK members and over time chisels away in a way at their beliefs so that he can get them to see the error of their ways, if we want to put a label on it or put a judgment on it, but gets them to change their beliefs where they don't stay in that position of hatred and towards you know black people. And so, and he works at it, and he doesn't do it from a place of I'm right and you're wrong. He does it from a place of you're a human being and I'm a human being. Even if you think lesser of me, I want to understand you. I want to hear you. And
Mhm.
again, what it comes back to what I said earlier, we all want to feel heard, regardless of our beliefs, our perspectives.
yeah.
We all want to feel heard. And I think for me, yeah, respect, just that little piece of energy of respecting somebody. Like I might not respect your behavior, but I still respect you as a human being, right? And so, because we are all one, and you're just the flip side of the coin from my, if I'm heads and yours tails, we're still on the same coin. We're still on the same earth. We're still in the same, energetic sphere, right? So however you want to put it, we're all still one. So I might be your shadow side or you might be my shadow side, but we're
Mhm.
still part of each other. And so I might not like your beliefs and I might not agree with you, but I can still respect you and I can still hear you and let you know that you're being heard even if I don't agree.
Yeah, and I think, Donya, just as you were saying that, something that just sort of came in for me was in the being heard and in the giving someone respect, you're valuing, who they are. You're not looking at what they're doing. You're not looking, you're acknowledging that they are not, you're separating them from their actions or them from their beliefs. You're going beyond, as Ernest Holmes would say, looking beyond the condition to the truth of who they are, that they are a reflection of you, of me, that we are all one, that we are all that same energy. And so, yeah, that's so important to allow people that opportunity to be heard, because when they're heard, then you're seeing the value and they feel that too. And that's when, that respect, it can just
Yeah.
grow. Wait, Glenn's going
And
to say something.
the other side of it though is like I have my triggers, I spend a lot of time listening to YouTube podcasts, and there are things that I guess I choose to focus on that I know are going to upset me, right? Because I think there's there's value here in hearing these stories where people are going through things that are not comfortable for me to listen to or to be aware of, but I have to have my um I have to decide what I'm going to do about it, right? And part of it is like I have to put out positive vibes or be aware that me thinking that there is a peaceful solution here is is sort of ultimately my path, right? But the other side of it in the short term is I get this like shrinking kind of like contraction reaction to things like the cancel culture thing that happens online with people when they're just when you said about people want to be heard, the online version of that is you would think I want to be able to say, well, even ask a question about a certain thing that in the online sphere is clamped down on if it's a dissenting opinion, which is absolutely unhelpful. I can see no positive overall benefit to shutting down the ability for a person to ask a question, not just the free speech thing, but like to say, what do you mean by that part? Like when you say this, what do you mean by that word? What
Mm-hmm.
does that mean to you? Because it can be seen as, well, no, you are a bigot, you are a transphobe, you are a whatever. And it's like, then all of a sudden you're like, what did I just walk into here? I thought I was walking to
Right.
sort of listen to someone speaking and say, what is it? But I've walked into a minefield and now I can't get out. So that stuff for me is like, I'm like, and Lass and I blow off steam about it sometimes with her, and I just think, what, what's going on? And I know the bigger picture for me is I know that um, we, from my perspective, we are choosing, each of us, to go through things ourselves in our consciousness, and it just so happens that it's like a correlation. It's not like COVID caused every human being in the West, will say, to shut down and be stuck in their homes and to not interact unless they're, covered up or vaccinated or whatever. I think the only way I can see this being truthful to me is to ask myself, and I would encourage anyone to sort of think of it this way. Like, if I was telling the story of my life in this point where I go 2019, 2020, 2021, I am going to do certain things where I'm going to spend a lot more time in a certain area of my life thinking about certain things, engaging in a certain way that's more intimate, but it's online, which is different from what I would normally do. And then realize that I'm taking the 100% and I'm shrinking things down to like 5%, and I'm expanding the 5% into like, this is what I'm going to really focus on. Why am I doing this? And then what am I getting out of this? And it just so happens everyone else is going through their own
Right.
reasons, and why are they doing this? And it's okay, like it's like you can do it as a creative thing and just say, like, imagine if I opened my door one day and I looked out and there's no kids playing and there's no one outside, and it's like, oh, it's a Twilight Zone. Well, which episode was it where there was no one around? Which episode was it where no one is looking each other, like everyone's sort of basically afraid of one another? Why are they doing that? And you can actually write a story around that. You can have fun with it in a way, right?
Yeah.
And I know, like, it's upsetting to hear about death and these large waves of sort of harm that's being done, because on a statistical scale, you've got lots of people dying, you've got lots of people isolated, you've got many young people going through such distress with their routine being shrunken to almost nothing. They're kind of begging to go back to school. Like,
Yeah.
like what's going on there?
I
And I
think
don't want to get stuck on the cause and effect thing, because I just think it's like, there's a bigger picture. We all are part of it. What can be going on for you and for me? Like, what is it?
Well, I think it really boils down to an individual's curiosity. There are people that are curious and want to um, explore and use this time to enrich themselves. And there's people that just don't have a curious mind. And I go back to Daryl Davis, right? I think it's his curiosity as to why does a white supremacist think this way. So I'm going to approach that person not in judgment, but in respect, and say, I want to know why. Like, what word? Like, you might use a different word, like you said earlier. And so it really boils down to, are you a curious person, or are you not a curious person? I think if you're curious, then that opens up so much more to you, right? Then you start going, well, why is this happening? Well, what is the bigger picture? Well, what do I need to achieve? Well, how can I get through this time period, right? You start asking questions about that. Even with what's going on with the insurrection here in America, why do these people feel this way? What is it that is causing them to have this anger? Why? I personally am curious, and it's easy to place judgment and say, I want to shut them down because of their beliefs, but really, clearly, they're enraged for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
They're not feeling heard. And now there is people that will say, well, they shouldn't be heard because their beliefs are a certain way. But again, you look at somebody like Daryl Davis, who is confronting people who have these beliefs that are stuck in their beliefs, and he is meeting them in a place where they're willing to have a conversation about it. And he's talking enough to them over months of chiseling away at their hardness, of their shell that they've put up, of their wall that they've put up, enough where they can have a real conversation and express themselves. And when they feel heard, then they start going, oh, maybe I'll listen to what you have to say. And then when they start listening to what you have to say, they might go, oh, I never thought of it that way. I actually share that same opinion. Right? And so that's really, I think, what it boils down to. It boils down to curiosity. How curious are you, and how open are you to willing to hear things that are uncomfortable, that are or going through things that are uncomfortable, going through the chaos, going through that. And so I think curiosity is the word that comes to mind for this concept. It's just, we have to be curious and open and willing and respectful, because that's how you break down the shells and the walls that are put up, around. We all put up walls, right, on some level, for everything. But in order to break down that wall, you have to show somebody respect and show them that they're being heard, and then they'll be willing to hear you back.
Yeah, and I guess also just to say that, be willing to allow yourself to change your opinion, or have your mind changed, and to go away and think about it and just settle with it for a bit, to say,
absolutely.
Yeah, I guess I'm open.
Because
Like, I
that's
was
what
listening.
growth is. That's what enlightenment is. Kyle Cease says, why is it the first time you hear a joke, you laugh so hard, and then the next time you hear a joke, you don't laugh that hard? Because you've already just been broken open. You've already been enlightened to a concept that you hadn't had before, right?
Yeah.
Or a thought that you hadn't had before, and it hits you, and same thing with crying. We cry for the same reasons. We are hit with an emotion that we haven't felt before, and we cry it out. And then the next time we experience it, yeah, it hurts, but we might not cry as much. It's because we've been broken open. We've been enlightened. And I think that's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh man.
We're always on a journey. You have to be willing to want to grow. That's the other thing. So many people are kind of stuck in their thing, in their mindset, and they're not really willing to open their mind and grow, and because they're comfortable where they are.
Yeah. I heard someone the other day use that framing of, am I willing to think about this in a different way? You don't have to say, I'm wrong about it, I'm going to change my mind. You can say, am I willing to, think of it in a different framework? But the person used the term potential. Like, is it in potential? Is it sort of is there a possibility that could exist in a slightly different way, where it's mostly the same, but a slight turn gets you a different outcome, whatever. But anyway, I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. It's potential and perspective, and that little turn might just open you up to a whole other world that you didn't expect. But it takes that one little step. It takes that one little moment in time where that crack in the shell that then lets you kind of go, oh, maybe I can step out of my shell.
Yeah. But
You
the other word there that jumps out at me is when you said earlier about respect, right? I think the word expect
know?
is equally important there. It's like, what is it that you expect to happen here?
Mm.
Because you're already telegraphing, you're already setting the rules of what you believe is going to be the only outcome here. But if you expect that, oh, I'm open to the surprise that something may come along, a person may come along, an event, the phone may ring to interrupt, Dr. James saying, good,
Right.
and off it went. It's slightly in a
And off
slightly
you went.
different, consciousness state, but like much, much changed, right? And to have people in our lives to expect that, sorry, to accept that people can come into our lives even very briefly and even rub us the wrong way, and just may never see them again, but it gets you thinking a different way or feeling in a different way, and you're just
100%. I like to look at it as, we're all like atoms floating around in that, I don't, that picture of like the circles and the atoms are all kind of floating around. And it seems like chaos, right? And sometimes you bounce into somebody and it just sets you off onto a different trajectory. So
Mhm.
instead of thinking that this collision is the worst thing that could possibly happen, instead of putting judgment on the collision,
Mhm.
accept that maybe the trajectory it's putting you on might be an enlightened path or something different. Like, okay, so in my family's story, the worst thing that happened was my father died of a heart attack at 37, right in front of my mother. I was 15 months old. My brother was like 13, 12. And it was a horrible thing to have a young man, 37, peak of his career, taken away that just like out of the blue like that. And that was the story that my family held on to. But had he not died, and I'm not saying it's a good thing he died, it's not, there's no judgment. That's the thing too. We have to take the judgment out of it, the good and the bad. We have to take that out. Because had he not died, he was an Episcopalian priest, and his plan was to become a missionary in the Fiji Islands, or in Guam or somewhere. So I might have not become who I am now. You would not know me who I am now. I might have been growing up speaking French and being a painter or being a teacher, who knows what, right? And
Yeah.
so, we have to look at these collisions in life as not as not, we can't put judgment on the collision. I think that's what I'm trying to say. We got to really stop with the judgment of everything,
Mhm.
because when you put judgment on the collision, you're not looking at what the trajectory might do for you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to perspective, like we were talking about
Perspective.
earlier. And then just also the idea of attachment, which, you were just kind of talking to about, staying stuck in the story of not being attached to something, because then you open yourself up to that, potential, that infinite potentiality, then that unlimitedness, that just, is always there anyway. So why not take advantage of it?
Yeah. Yeah, really, it is. It's that it and it's simple, and yet it's not simple. It's hard to do. It's hard to maintain because we get caught up in the circumstance.
Hmm.
We get so caught up in our circumstance. And yet our circumstance is only our previous beliefs and our previous thoughts have created the circumstance, right? And then we get caught up in the circumstance and we go, oh, wait, this is circumstance, it's reality. I've got a great phrase, it's on my phone. I got to just read it real quick. Never face reality. Oh, I got to delete. Unless the reality is just the way you want it,
Good one. Good. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because what is reality? I mean, it's all just manifestation and right of a previous belief. So
Hmm.
whatever currently is just a
Glenn's turned into a
I,
photo. Okay.
he turned into a photo. He's thinking about it. He's going, I
He's
gotta think
always
about that.
contemplating.
He's
Yep.
contemplating what I just said. But it's true. Like, what is reality, really? What is reality? Reality as we understand it in science of mind or in quantum physics, reality is only the manifestation of a previous belief or a previous thought,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what were you doing before this reality
Mm-hmm.
to create this reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's taking responsibility for your own, thoughts, which
Yep.
is hard for a lot of people to do, me included. But if we can take that responsibility and know that our reality is our previous thoughts, then we can change that reality and make something new,
Yep.
right? At any time. And reality is really, it's really just, it's malleable. It's you know what I mean? To me, okay, yes, this has black and white keys and it's hard and it's plastic and it makes noise. Yes, I'm not going to necessarily be able to change that, but my perception of how it affects me. Does it
Mm-hmm.
bring joy to me? Does it bring misery to me? Does it bring, right? Like, how does it affect me? I have total control over that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry.
Okay.
It was such a deep thought. You had this deep thought look.
Yeah.
I'm in
Yep.
deep thought.
That says, who do I think I am? Look.
Who do I think I am? I am
Okay.
nothing. I am everything.
So we're coming up on 2 hours.
Yeah.
And like,
I
I
told you
know
we'd
that we
go
could keep
forever.
talking about stuff, but before we go on to the next sort of the closing round, because you are a musician, because music has been this continuous thread throughout your entire lifetime, and because it is so much of how you show up in the world, just as someone who also loves music and has so many amazing memories, and that I can just like conjure up viscerally at a moment's notice, talk to us a little bit about some of your favorite musical moments, whether it's like a live concert, whether it's playing with someone, whether it's hearing something for the first time. Like, what comes up for you there?
Wow. Well, I will say, uh, the time I played with Keith Richards was pretty amazing. And it came spontaneously. As you know, Johnnie Johnson was my idol, my mentor. Johnnie Johnson, for those who don't know, was Chuck Berry's piano player for 30 years. And in the industry, it's understood that Johnny co-wrote a lot of that material early on. But unfortunately, in the era of as it was, he didn't get credit.
Yeah.
And it was Chuck Berry song, right? But it was actually Johnnie Johnson's band that Chuck Berry joined. So anyway, it was the Sir John Trio before it became the Chuck Berry band. So I have always been a huge fan of Johnny's, and I got to open for him one night, and that led to an amazing friendship and mentorship with him and his family. And he took me under his wing musically. And so one night, and he was friends with Keith Richards from the film. There's a documentary called Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll about Chuck Berry. And the story goes that when they were filming that, Keith Richards says, something's not sounding right with the band. We're missing the keyboard, the right kind of keyboard sound. He goes, do we know where Johnnie Johnson is living these days? And at the time they were filming this concert for Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll, Johnny was driving a bus for senior citizens, and he hadn't been playing music.
Wow.
And he was a senior in his like 60 something. And so Keith Richards says, well, no, we're not going to film this concert until we get Johnnie Johnson to come and play keys, because he's such an integral part of the history of Chuck Berry. So Keith and Johnny had become really good friends because of that film. So every time Johnny came to New York, I was living in New York at the time, and every time Johnny came to New York, I would pick him up at the airport, and we were good friends. And whether I opened for him or not, it didn't matter. Sometimes I would, sometimes I wouldn't. Sometimes the club wanted to have a different opener. But this particular night, there was somebody else had opened for him, and I was in the audience, and there was always rumor that Keith Richards would show up, and he never did. Like, he's not going to come to some little dinky blues bar in New York, like, who cares, right? So I never put much thought into it. And then this particular night, they started setting up a second amplifier, a guitar amplifier on the
Yeah.
stage. I thought, I wonder. And then the rumors started floating, and the first set started happening, and I'm in the audience watching Johnny, and suddenly I hear this a little bit, and the place was empty because Johnny didn't really command a huge crowd, and so the place was kind of sparse. And I heard this little commotion behind me, and I turn around and I see Keith Richards walking in with a bodyguard, and they sit him over in the corner. And I was like, oh my God, Keith Richards is here. Oh my God, oh my God. So in between songs, I run over to him and I said, excuse me, Mr. Richards, you don't know me. I said, but I'm a student of Johnnie Johnson's. And he looked at me and he said, aren't we all? Meaning, like, if you've heard rock and roll, if you've even ever heard any rock and roll in your life, you are a student of Johnnie Johnson's, because he's the father of the rock and roll piano, right? So I gave him a wink and a smile, and I went back to my seat. After the first set, we all went down to the band room and we're chatting, and I'm hanging out with Keith Richards, and he's got his arm around me, and he's singing show tunes, and he's singing old standards, Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered, and I'm like, and Swonderful, and I'm like, this guy's cool. And he still didn't know me, like he just knows me as a fan of Johnny's. So after the second set started, sure enough, they called Keith Richards up, and he's playing the whole second set with the band and with Johnny. And Johnny always ended his set with Johnny Be Good, which was written for Johnny by Chuck Berry. And Johnny doesn't sing a lot, but the singer, which was Jimmy Vivino, great, amazing guitarist, famous from the Conan O'Brien show, he usually sings, and he sings the last verse, and he sings bye bye Johnny, goodbye, and he's trying to get, and that's Johnny's cue every night to stand up, wave to the crowd, tip his hat, walk off stage while the band still plays, and then the show's over. Well, Johnny wasn't getting up. And Jimmy's going, bye bye, Johnny, goodbye. Like, take the hint, Johnny. It's your time to get up and get off the stage. The show's over. And Johnny's not getting up. So the band ended the song. And Johnny, who was he was this big man, but very quiet giant. And he waited for the crowd to die down. He waited, and Jimmy's looking at him like, dude, what are you still doing on stage? And he goes, this is not fair. All night we've had 2 guitar players and only 1 piano player. And I think we need to get another piano player up here. Don't ya? Come on up. Now, Keith, who is not really paying attention to what Johnny's saying, he's talking to Jimmy about guitars, and they're looking at each other's guitar, and Johnny's talking to the audience, and I hear him call me up, and now they start the next song, and I'm still in the back of now what is a packed room, because now that Keith is in it, everybody got on their phones in the middle of the second set going, tell Keith Richards is here, and now the place is packed, and I'm in the back climbing over tables trying to get to the stage while the band's starting this new song, and Keith is just playing the song, and Keith's, no disrespect, he's a wonderful man. Everybody makes jokes about it, but he's kind of that kind of baked kind of guy, he's and so he's not really paying full attention to what's going on over by the piano. And I jump up and I sit next to Johnny, and we're playing together, and Johnny's just smiling. And then Johnny gets up and stands behind me as if to say, hey, everybody, look at my little girl go. And I start playing, and I do a famous Johnnie Johnson lick on the piano. And Keith has his back to me because he's Jimmy Vivino, and they're playing guitar together, And suddenly he hears a lick, and he turns to acknowledge Johnny, and he sees me, and he goes, "You bitch!" And I go, "Yeah, baby!" And he's just then he starts playing the guitar in my face, and we start jamming out. And then Johnny just slowly walked away, went backstage, off stage, and we're jamming. And he's like, "Oh, you're a bitch, yeah!" And I'm just like, yeah, baby, yeah. And we're playing, and the song ends, and Keith Richards grabs me and hugs me, and then his bodyguard grabbed him and ripped him out of the room. But anyway, and that was it. And so that was my opportunity to play with Keith Richards, and he called me a bitch. In a meaning bitchin,
Yeah,
you know, like
yeah.
meaning like you're cool. And so I wear that badge with pride and honor that Keith Richards called me a bitch.
Now
But it was
that's a
just
story.
wonderful. Yeah.
That is a story. Thank you.
Yeah. It was just such a great moment in hit for me just to be in that history of Johnny and Keith and Jimmy Vivino and just all of that and to feel a part of it, to feel heard and accepted by those people who I considered, you know, mentors and idols, and not just to be welcomed as a peer was just remarkable. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. That was fantastic. Right on.
I'm a bitch.
A bitch and goddess of soul.
That's right. And a work in progress.
And a work in progress. Okay, so let's wrap it up here, and let's maybe do it again sometime down the road, because there's just like so much more. So for now, just sort of taking that, you know, amazing story as inspiration, segueing into this next super rapid fire question round where Glenn will kind of take the reins. So basically you are going to have 1 minute together where Glenn is going to fire off questions.
Boy.
And you're going to answer them just like off the top of your head, spontaneous. Don't think about them a lot. And then at the end of a minute, Glenn will let you know what you've won.
Woo-hoo-hoo! I'm so excited.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, I forgot to bring my timer in, but I can just use the timer on Zoom here. So, yeah. Mahoney, whenever you're ready, just are you ready?
I'm ready.
Almost. 1 second.
Speed round.
Glenn's rolling up his sleeves, wiping his brow. No, he's not, but he's rolling up his sleeves.
I'm nervous.
He's looking at his material.
It's the prize thing that is I'm torn between two, so I'm gonna have to.
Okay.
Oh, you know, I had this great idea for a prize where we just not reorganized our albums, but moved some furniture around last weekend. And so all of our vinyl is now in the living room, and all of it is in these little super organized cubbies. And so I was thinking, well, we have like 17 cubbies, you know, someone could pick a number, then, you know, like a number, you know, for the cubby, then a number in the albums, and we could pull it out and we could play a tune. But because this is a podcast,
right, you can't.
Licensing would be
yeah.
Anyway, so, you know, there's like that somewhere maybe down the road, something that we can do. But okay, Glenn, I was buying us some time. Are you ready?
Here you go.
Okay, all right. So
okay, I'm really nervous. This is speed. I've never done a speed round. This is awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so you're gonna get 1 minute. I'm gonna tell you when to start. On your mark.
Mostly they are either or, but not at the beginning. Okay.
You don't have to explain. Okay, now we missed okay, hold on. Let me get to a good one so that I remember to stop you guys. Because when we did this with Dr. James, I just became so enthralled and enamored with the answers. I'm like, oh,
okay, cool. All right, I'm nervous. Here we go. Speed round.
We're coming up to the minute mark. So just a few more seconds. In 5, 4, 3, 2, go.
How many tattoos do you have?
None.
What is your favorite city to visit?
London.
Do you sing in the shower?
No.
What is your shoe size?
8.5.
What is my shoe size?
Next. I don't know, men. 9.5.
Are you more wave or particle?
Wave. Do
you prefer Van Morrison or Van Halen?
Oh, well, I worked with Van Morrison, so I would have to say Van Morrison.
Okay. Jigsaw or crossword puzzle?
Crossword.
Singing or dancing?
Dancing.
Swearing or hitting a pillow?
Oh, swearing.
Swimming or skiing?
Swimming.
Cats or dogs?
Both. All animals.
Sweet or savory?
Savory.
Writing or reading?
Writing.
Action or adventure?
Action.
Ding, 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 ding. Woo!
Wow, that was good. Well,
Yeah.
action or adventure? I thought you were going to say action or drama or action or like comedy. So I was thinking the wrong thing. But yeah, I'll take it. Action.
Okay, here's one. Indiana Jones or Tom Jones?
Tom Jones. I went to Tom Jones for my 50th birthday. Okay, I got to tell you a quick story. When I was six, I know we're over the podcast, but when I was 6, my mom took me to see Tom Jones in the round at a theater that had like a Lazy Susan stage that turned, around.
Yep.
And, all the women threw their underwear at Tom Jones, right? And so she planted my little baby underwear. So she goes, here, bring this down to the front of the stage. So this little 6-year-old me walking with my Wonder Woman underwear. It was Wonder Woman underoos. And I'm walking down to the stage with my underwear, and he's on the Lazy Susan stage, and it comes around to me, and he's singing. I don't know what song he's singing, and he stops, and the stage stops, and he looks at me, and he starts laughing because he sees the little girl with the underwear, and the whole audience is laughing because they're seeing this cute little girl with the underwear, and he kneels down and he finishes singing right to me.
Oh, wow.
Right. And then when he stops, when the song's over, I'm still trying to hand him the underwear. And he goes, I wish I could take it, but if I took it, they'd throw me in jail. Or so he made some sort of a cute comment, and everybody laughed, whatever. And then some assistant came and took the underwear from me or whatever. And that was it. But I got to see him when I was 6, and then my bestie got me tickets for my 50th birthday to see him here in LA at the Greek Theater. Oh, and he's still king. Oh my God. His voice just rings through the atmosphere. He's amazing.
Well, and the
Wow.
question on everyone's mind is, did you go up to the stage and hand him your 50
No!
underwear?
No, we were too far back, but no, I didn't get to do that. And I would have loved to have just brought the same little girl Wonder Woman underoos as a 50-year-old woman handing him.
Jeepers.
Remember me, Tom? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, my prize is not going to be as exciting as that, but this is from the. It's just a book of sayings.
Oh, I love it.
Geary's Guide to the World's Great Aphorisms by James Geary.
I love it.
Geary's Guide.
Okay. And one of my favorite writers, Eric Hoffer, who is he was a longshoreman in New York, I think, for whatever period of time, and he was a secret writer and wrote a book called True Believer, and just a really smart guy. Wrote a lot on class and like what's really going on in the world and stuff. So here's 2 of the ones that I really like that he does. He writes, "Doing nothing is harmless, but being busy doing nothing is not."
Ooh,
Right? This is
I love that.
Yeah.
Say that.
And
Wait, can you say that one more time? I got to absorb that. I love that.
doing nothing is harmless, but being busy doing nothing is not.
Wow, that's deep. Love it.
Okay, and this one's slightly lighter. It's the hardest arithmetic to master is that which enables us to count our blessings.
Oh.
Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
There.
a perfect gift right there. Oh, ding, 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 ding. Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so Donia,
Wow.
before we go, if people want to learn more about you, if they want to get in touch with you, if they want to experience the goddess of soul in progress, how do they do so?
They can do so through my website. It's www.donaoxford, which is DONA. You don't need the little squiggle. oxford.com. Also my Facebook. I'm a lot on Facebook. So Facebook /Donia Oxford. Instagram, Twitter, all that /Donia Oxford. It's all the same. And you can access it through the website as well. Yeah, that's the best place.
Okay, awesome. We will have a slide put up so that people can see that visual as well. Dona Oxford, thank you so very much for being our guest today. It was just such a pleasure, such a delight. So many stories, so many ideas, so many concepts, so much just what a juicy, amazing, rich, fulfilling time, it has been for me. And
I agree. Back at you. I just had a ball, and I would love to do it again anytime. On camera or off camera. You know?
Please.
And the
Yeah.
music, 2 tunes too, right on. So
Next time I'll do my my rap.
okay. All right. You're on.
Yeah.
Okay. So Mahoney, thank you so much for your contribution today. And thank you to everyone who tuned in, who listened, who watched. If you enjoyed what you heard, then please remember, like, subscribe, leave us a comment below wherever you can to let us know what you're thinking or what you got out of today's episode. And I am just so grateful once again for everyone who is here, everyone who is with us, and for everyone who is on their way to listen to Who Do You Think You Are? This has been another episode. Dona Oxford has been our guest. My name is Lassia Cahoot. Glenn Sheridan has been here too. And we look forward to seeing you again for the next episode of Who Do You Think You Are? Bye for now.
Bye. Thanks.
This has been an episode of Who Do You Think You Are? An exploration into how our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings create our reality. My name is Lassia Cahoot, and I have been your host. My co-host has been Glenn Sheridan. We'd like to thank the following for helping make this podcast a reality. Today's special guest, Dona Oxford. Music, Vasco Lorenco, copyright 123rf.com. Background illustration, Sak Masterke, copyright 123rf.com. For more information on this podcast and our Lassia Cahoot Soul Excavator, please visit www.lassiacahoot.com. If you like what you've heard, please like, subscribe, and or let us know by leaving a comment. Thanks for tuning into Who Do You Think You Are?